The proposed project aims to implement more sustainable practices throughout various key learning areas and reflect on the findings for ongoing and continuous improvement. This initiative will introduce activities that align with the syllabus and the cross-curriculum priority of sustainability within Year 7 classes at Kingswood High School. In an effort to best implement the initiative, each faculty will introduce this sustainable practice into Year 7 classes in order to iron out any issues that may arise both from a pedagogical and organisational perspective. Teachers will be tasked with linking the relevant syllabus outcomes with their new sustainable practice, as well as creating content focused on sustainable practice for their students to learn. Both teachers and students will then be given the opportunity to reflect on the shift of resources used within the classroom, as well as their shift in attitudes towards sustainable practice and reducing their carbon footprint. This reflection will be done via surveys. As previously stated, this initiative will be introduced at Kingswood High School, where 53% of the students fall into the bottom quartile of low socio-educational advantage. The implementation of sustainable practices occurring naturally in the classroom will be advantageous for the students and staff at Kingswood High School, where their current policy to enact education for sustainability across the curriculum is not monitored. Whilst Kingswood High School is low socio-economic, government funding has allowed the school to introduce technology into most classrooms through BYOD, or Bring Your Own Device, Chromebook banks in each faculty, and easy access to technology for each teacher in each classroom. This will be a crucial factor in reducing teacher and student reliance on paper and single-use platforms for learning, and in turn reducing the carbon footprint of the year group as a whole. In addition to implementing more sustainable teaching practices through the use of resources, materials and activities, the initiative will place an importance on the education of sustainability. Through this shift in content focus, students will further develop their knowledge, skills, values and attitudes necessary to positively contribute to more sustainable patterns of living. In an effort to monitor the progress of the initiative at Kingswood High, staff will attend meetings and participate in reflection surveys alongside students. Along with regular faculty meetings which examine the changing attitudes and consumption of single-use resources, the heads of each faculty will meet regularly via Zoom to discuss the progress of the initiative within their faculty and across the year group as a whole. At the end of the term, there will be a final focus group meeting to reflect on the initiative throughout the term, ongoing improvements that can be made for the following term, and the possibility of expanding the initiative to more grades.
This project has been in the planning process at Kingswood High School for the whole school year. Term 3 was chosen as the ideal time to implement these changes, as it gave sufficient planning time for staff and meant that the Year 7 students would be familiar with the high school environment. It is important that teachers take a leadership role throughout this project, as there is widespread acknowledgement that the quality of school leadership makes a substantial difference to school and student outcomes. Leithwood et al. 2006 argue that inside the school gate, leadership is second only to classroom teaching as an influence on student learning. The final 2 weeks of the second term of the school year will be used to plan the focus groups, surveys, to gather resources, and to inform parents and the community of the initiative through the school newsletter and an email sent directly to parents. Ames et al. 2011 states that by working collaboratively across groups involved in the school, including parents and the local community, we can hope to build a strong network that would allow for collaborative development. The project would align to the following schedule. Focus groups would occur every 2 weeks starting from week 1. These focus groups would occur with classroom teachers. Focus groups have the advantage of providing the opportunity for individuals to share their thoughts without the spotlight pressure that may occur in one-on-one interviews. Surveys would be created in week 2 and week 5 and completed and returned by students in week 3 and week 6. There will be a period of reflection in weeks 3, 6 and 10 to modify the project to address any issues that may occur. In Term 3, Week 5, staff will gather for a meeting where they'll discuss the progress of the project and how it is being received by the students. Staff must be committed to achieving the project goals. According to Lumpkin 2008, students can tell when their teachers genuinely care about them and their teaching and are trustworthy, honest and respectful. Effectively, if teachers do not believe in sustainable teaching and its various methods, students can sense this and are therefore less likely to be receptive to sustainability in practice. A printing room stocktake will occur in weeks 5 and 10. This would involve keeping account on the amount of paper used by each faculty. In the final week of Term 3, all participating faculties would gather for a staff meeting to discuss the effectiveness of the project.
The main objective is to reduce the carbon footprint of the school by modifying existing infrastructure and use of resources used in the day-to-day running of the school. This can be achieved by adopting the following goals: educating stakeholders on the importance of sustainability in a school environment, recruiting leaders to implement strategies for tackling environmental issues, begin the initiative with a single-year group strategy, further address issues using a whole school approach that meets the school's ecological needs, re-evaluate goals to administer a cycle of continuous self-improvement.
Hi guys, how is everyone? I'm just going to jump straight into the meeting. So we're going to have a chat about the resources at Kingswood High School. We're also going to have a chat about the teacher attitudes and the student attitudes. Then I'm going to pass over to everyone to talk about the specific KLA. So as we know, each faculty has their own bank of Chromebooks that are available. This is a means of equity for those students who can't bring their own device to school. Be sure to utilise these, and Hapara as well, the online classroom. You can teach and upload all your resources from that one platform, and students can access it at home as well. Also, we've ensured that your projectors are up to date and working fine in every classroom, so you can know that if you do have a classroom change, you're fine. In terms of teacher attitudes towards the increase of ICT for this initiative, most teachers have been on board, which is great. There are a few areas where teachers are reluctant, especially with the use of projectors in their everyday practice. Their argument is that it doesn't align with their pedagogy. However, getting teachers on board across the entire school sets up a routine for the students and a level of expectation. It's also been said that if a teacher is enthusiastic about technology, well, the students will reciprocate that and have an optimistic attitude towards the increase of ICT. So if we can be positive, that means student attitude will be positive as well. With regards to students, there might be some issues with on-task behaviour, but students are generally happy to be learning on their Chromebooks. It gives them a bit more freedom and autonomy with their learning. As long as we can remind students that their technology can be monitored, especially through the use of Google Docs, we shouldn't have any real problems eliminating the real issues of disengagement and off-task behaviour. So I'm going to pass over to Brooke from English to have a chat.
So in the English lessons, we've been implementing ICT through PowerPoint slides and using the Chromebooks for digital storyboards in the program of picture books and perspective. It's slightly difficult not printing out worksheets, them having that manual creativity. However, they're getting along with researching on their phone, on their own, and applying the information to the tasks, as well as the help from Hapara. Behaviour management has been reflected on. We've been implementing PBL in activities, so working in small groups, reading and analysing the picture books, encouraging critical thinking in response to the focus question. Continuing on behaviour, consistent monitoring and observing to ensure they're on task and understanding activity. Although it's slightly draining, it has been successful. We have been putting the activities and instructions on the board so that when they're using ICT, they're not constantly asking their teacher. Consequences are, of course, known, but in looking at perspectives and expressing themselves and the relationships to the world through picture books, they're given journal tasks where they write information about information on a character in relation to sustainability, such as System BISO in Zimbabwe and active sustainable agriculture, as well as other learning topics as understanding world hunger. That's what's happening in English.
Excellent, great. Thanks, Brooke. Moving on to Jess from the HISI department, please.
Hi guys. So for this project, we focused on Year 7. So for HISI, that means a core focus on history and geography, as they're the only HISI subjects that students complete in Stage 4. There has been some resistance in the faculty towards cutting back on the amount of printing done, especially from history teachers who prefer to print out their source work. There's been a number of new technologies entering the classroom that we haven't seen before, which has allowed us to meet outcomes 7 and 8 for Stage 4 more easily. In terms of behaviour management, we believe that ICT has had a positive effect on the behaviour management in the classroom. I want to draw your attention now to the two programs we've been working on in Year 7 in history and geography. Year 7 history is working through ancient China, while 7 geography is working through landscapes and landforms. Admittedly, it's a lot easier implementing sustainable education in geography, for obvious reasons. For Year 7, we settled on the following ways of incorporating sustainability. We had increasing the frequency of geographical terms to describe the landscape of China, discussing the sustainability of agriculture, tourism, and landmarks. That was the second one. A successful lesson that we had in 7Geo was where students completed the whole lesson on laptops, doing a variety of activities on Classroom. Students were engaged throughout this lesson. So yeah, thanks for that.
Thank you very much. Okay, and we're going to be moving over to Dimitri from the CAFA department. Thanks, Dimitri.
Thank you, Ange. In music, we used ICT to bring students knowledge of the musical world around them. With this knowledge, we asked students to build musical instruments through recycled and natural materials. Students looked at the historical context that their instrument evolved from and emulated stylistic features of the period. This involved studying notated scores online and improvising. We also had sessions outside listening to nature and environmental sounds, which made students realize the connection that they have with their surroundings. ICT is also helpful as a tool for behavioral management. This was demonstrated by showing music videos to students that show how to play their instruments or live footage of performers which inspired students. A successful lesson was measured by all students participating in the activity with minimal disruption where students were enthusiastic about the content and motivated to learn. This was demonstrated by the instruments built and the experimentation of sound produced. Thanks, Ange.
Thanks, Dimitri. And finally, we'll listen to Mitch from the TAS department.
Thanks, Ange. So in TAS, we're looking at incorporating ICT through the use of CAD modeling. This is incorporating our new 3D print lab and the machinery in that as well. And a particular point we're taking with it is to get our stage 4 students to think about how much material they're using in their designs. So we're focusing on trying to create a product that is fit for our purpose whilst reducing the material usage so that we can actually save money and be wary of the carbon footprint that these products place. Another thing we're looking at doing in TAS is also a communal garden. This is going to become an outdoor learning space, as well as it's going to feed into other parts of TAS KLAs, in particular in cooking, because we'll be growing much of our own produce for our classes out there as well. Thanks,
Excellent,
Ange.
that's great. Okay, so moving now on to the focus groups and just reflecting on those focus groups. I believe they've been really successful in ensuring that we're all on the same page and communicating what worked and what hasn't worked. One thing that has worked is PowerPoint slides, using them every lesson. That ensures routine for the students. To combat negative behaviour, having consistent consequences in the classroom has proved really useful and successful. Also, in good news, in relation to the pre-survey and the current learning, I think we can all agree there has definitely been a shift in behaviour and attitudes towards sustainability. If you look at the results from the pre-survey, the results from I remain on task while using ICT in the classroom from the students, they were quite low, but we'll be conducting the mid-survey this week, which will be a really great way to see if there's any shift in evidence rather than just using the data from our observations. It will give great insight to the student understanding of sustainability and a reflection of the change in practices as well. I'll be collecting the data from the mid-survey to compare to the next focus group and the post-survey and see how we're going and where we need to change from there. Okay, so we're going to move on to community involvement, but first I'll just double check we've gone through these items on the agenda and a cycle of continuous improvement is where we're up to. Thank you, Dimitri.
Thanks, Ange. In deciding the best practice for a sustainable strategy for the school, it will require leaders to get feedback from the community. which is sensitive to their cultural beliefs and practices. Ways to do this could include the school could organise events such as fetes, barbecues, and sporting days which invite family members with discussions of sustainability in schools. The school could do surveys of families to find their opinion on environmental issues. The school could run concerts, plays, and poetry nights which contain environmental themes to help the community to understand the importance of these issues. Thanks, Ange.
Awesome, great, thank you. And we're going to move over to Mitch, who's going to explain the Plan, Do, Check, Act principle.
So the Plan, Do, Check, Act principle is a way of continually checking our continuous improvement with the sustainability reform we're going through. So the initial stage is planning our content and learning and the perceived achievement goals. Then we move on to the Do, which is the educational method and program design for our goal achievement. Once we've done that, we get to our check stage, which is where we evaluate the method to check the success of our goal achievement. And then the final stage is the Act, wherein we improve upon our overall education program based on assessment results. And then this will allow us to move on to the planning stage again and continue that cycle to continually improve our actions.
Okay, great. So just finishing up and looking at moving forward, there's a few things that we need to be aware of. Ongoing collection of data through the student surveys. So we need to be open to further changes during this process to ensure that we're delivering the best opportunities to the students at this school and for the initiative overall. We have discussed today the Plan, Do, Check, Act framework. I would like to highlight the significance of this in ensuring that we're creating a cycle of continuous improvement. We need to maintain a growth mindset throughout this as well. Obviously, a project like this requires a fair deal of funding. Next meeting, I propose we add this to the agenda. I'd like to discuss the possibility of fundraisers for student Kindles in the library, perhaps with the linking that in with the community engagement as well. And to that, community involvement is a priority. We will be further involving the community and families and friends during this process to ensure that we're accountable. So thank you for everyone for coming today. The minutes will be sent out to you in your email in the next couple of days so that you can share this information with your faculties when you hold your next faculty meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.